If you're anything like me, when you hear, financial freedom, my mind automatically goes to, money, right? Whether it's like having six figures or you have a net worth, you're a millionaire or, just being able to do whatever. But what I recently realized is that over the years, the way that I think about financial freedom is changing, or it has changed. I mean, in the past, if you would have asked me, hey, Ann, what's your definition of financial freedom? I would always say something like, it's my ability to do what I want, when I want, without ever worrying about money. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think that to some degree, but the part that got me was that worrying about money piece, right? Yeah, it's nice to think we can go the location and the travel freedom and stuff like that, but it's that worrying about money that, none of us wants to do. And I know for me, where that comes from is, a big part of my life, I've been in survival mode, you know? I've been in survivor mode, whether it's, first joining the military, not having a lot of money, getting divorced at a very young age, finding myself as a single parent. And the thing that topped it all off, on top of all of that, if that wasn't enough, hearing that my one and only child has diagnosis of autism. You know what I mean? So I was in survivor mode, like, yo, I just gotta make things happen, no matter what it looked like. And then before you know it, I found myself in credit card debt. I had, car loans. Y'all, I had a car loan on a car that I couldn't even drive, right? I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, it was a stick shift and I couldn't even drive it, but I was making car payments on it because that's what we do, right? That's the normal thing in America, credit cards and car payments and mortgages, all of those type of things. And I fell right into, into that trap, charge it as long as I can make the payment, I'm good, type of thing. But as time went on and as I got older, my mindset, started to change. My definition, of financial freedom started to change. So, yeah, so now it's no longer only about money. Actually, it's beyond the money for me. It truly is beyond the money for me. And at this point, the things that's mainly changed for me is just several. Like I said, my mindset. I used to have a scarcity mindset. Anybody in my family, they know not to ask me for money. And they'll tell you, don't ask a girl for money. I would hold on to that money tight because, it was just me and my daughter. So it's like, don't be coming over here asking me for nothing. I ain't got nobody over here helping me out. So I had a very scarcity mindset. But as I, educated myself and learned to change my relationship with money, incorporating better habits, I moved from that scarcity mindset to a mindset of abundance. Now, don't get me wrong, it pops up every now and then, but I'm more aware of it. But now it's really more so, a mindset of abundance. We're not lacking for anything. I'm not lacking for anything. And I know the same probably can be said for you. You may think so, but if you sit back and really looked at it in big scheme of things, you're not lacking for nothing. Nothing that you can't change. So yeah, my mindset changed. I went from scarcity, to abundance. My point of view, how I looked at money changed. And this is the biggest one for me, Early on, I was very independent, right? That's how, I grew up. My mother was a single mother and she just always taught me to, not to rely on anyone. So I was very independent. So I always had the thought of, I got this done. I did this. I did that. Very right? But nah, it ain't even about me no more. Like I said, it went from being about me to, being about my daughter. Now it's more so being about others. And on top of that, the biggest shift is, from that independent mindset is, I have a stewardship mindset, right? And once I started learning about stewardship about a year and a half ago, it really changed things for me. It really put things in perspective, in that all the things that we have, we look around, our cars, our houses, our clothes, and that type of stuff. All these things, we don't own nothing. We do not own anything. God owns it all, and we're just stewards of it. And once I realized that changed the way that I looked at money. I'm just a manager. My job is to manage well what I've been entrusted with, and not just manage it, right? Not just manage it well. I'm here to multiply it. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to give God back more than what he has given me. I'm here to multiply it. So that's one of the areas that my, mindset has changed in around to, in regards to, stewardship. Just how I look at money is no longer, about me. It's about blessing others. It's about helping others. Like I said, coming from where I came from, there's somebody that may still be out there thinking the way that I thought. And that's why I'm here talking about this, because I'm hoping that, someone hears it and be like, yeah, that's me. I get it. I get it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just to help other people manage their money well. That's the reason I became a financial coach. I call myself a money nerd, but to get myself out of the money trenches, I had to self-educate myself, because money wasn't talked about in my family. It wasn't really talked, about in school. So I had to really self-educate myself. And once I did, I just started talking about it. I feel that's where it brought me joy, talking about money, or budgeting and getting out of debt. I can talk about that stuff for hours, right? And that's what it's about for me now. That's why I became a financial coach, so that I can help other people. And I believe that we're all given gifts and talents, and I think that's one of my gifts, is to help people in the area of stewardship. And before you get caught up in, thinking, oh, Lord, stewardship, religion this, religion that, listen, stewardship is another word for manage, right? You're just managing what you've been entrusted with. That's all it means. And that's where I'm here to, help others as well. So whether it's helping them as a coach, whether it's helping them by me sharing my story, it's all the same, right? It's no longer based on me. Me. It's about others. It's about managing well what I've been entrusted with, right? And it just reminds me, a lot of times we think, oh, I want to reach, financial freedom. I want to reach financial freedom. Well, to me, financial freedom, one is, it's a journey. It's not, a destination like, oh, I'm here. Now I can just sit back and chill out. It's not a destination. You're always on a journey. And in my next video, I'm going to talk to you about my next financial journey. But it's a journey, right? And it's beyond the numbers. But I know that if you're like me, or how I was, when you think about financial freedom, you're thinking about the numbers, like how much you got in the bank, or what's your, net worth and stuff like that. But you have to get to a point in your life, or I had to get to a point in my life, is that it's beyond the numbers. It's beyond that. And once I realized that, that's why I know, and that's why, like I said, how I look at financial freedom now is different. It's completely different. So yeah, I just wanted to jump on here and just share that with you guys. And I would love to hear, how do you define financial freedom? Share it with me in the comments. Is it more so about, a certain dollar amount, or is it beyond the numbers for you as well? I would love to hear it. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.